My name is Aj- My name is Ajibola Abiodu, and I currently work as an investment associate at Black Iron Capital. Uh, the major reason why I wrote for the FME course was strictly because of the value and the money. So first, in terms of the value, the course provided more than just a platform to write the exam. I was able to learn modeling from the scratch itself, and also there are some other additions to the courses that made it very, good value for money. And in terms of the money aspect, right? So it's more of like a scholarship, and I'm sort of paying for something worth over $2,000 at a ridiculous amount, and I just had to jump on it. And in terms of my expectations, I wanted to learn modeling, right? And I've been doing it for a while now. And I think one of the things that I learned, for example, were in terms of maybe setting my printer, in terms of making my model printable, trying to, work around with Volva and all those sort of things. So those really, really, helped me. And in terms of my current role, fortunately, I think immediately after the exam, for example, I had one particular project I had to work on, and I had to sort of implement a couple of the things that I learned. So it's made my model more professional in terms of its look and feel. And I think that the course itself has sort of greatly increased my financial modeling skills. And for my general experience at the academy, so I would say this is beyond just a modeling course, right? So I got to meet wonderful people. So for example, I met Baba Tokwe, who is one of our instructors. I also had like a couple of colleagues like Evelyn, which we sort of practice for 2 weeks. We're practicing every day, and we are still in touch till today. So if you are there and you are looking for, you are trying to make that decision, I think you need to make that decision to enroll for this course, because it's going to be one of the best things that, happen to you in the long run. Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. Yeah, welcome to today's webinar. And in today's webinar, we are going to be talking about report automation in modern Excel. Yeah, I'm excited to be here as well as you. I know you're excited to be here as well. So everyone. All right, so everyone, let's type in the chat. Tell us where you're coming from and where you're joining us from across the globe. All right, Moshe is joining from Lagos, from Port Harcourt. Interesting. All right. Okay. Let's type in the chat. Let's get to know where you're joining us from across the globe. All right. Can see people joining from Lagos, from Zimbabwe, from Nsukka, from Port Harcourt. But let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. From Lagos. Interesting. Where am I joining from? I think I'm also joining from Lagos, Nigeria. All right. Okay. So welcome everyone. Just like the title indicates, it's going to be what we're going to be looking at: report automation in modern Excel. All right. All right. So just like we said, we're going to be looking at report automation in modern Excel. But before we proceed, kindly confirm in the chat if you can see my screen. Let's confirm if you can see my screen. Okay, just let me know once my screen is up. All right, everyone. Remember, because it's what is report automation in modern Excel. So today we are going to be going into a case study we're going to a case study, and we're all going to brainstorm on it together. And together, we find the lasting solution to the case study. So in this case today, we are going to be looking at what a challenge of a treasury department of a bank in somewhere on earth. So this department, the finance and treasury, the recent challenge we have currently at hand now is what the finance and the treasury department at Nova Bank. So the bank is called Nova Bank. Have been using manual Excel template to manage loan schedules. And each monthly, the analysts are the data, they copy the loan terms, and also use different formulas in Excel to calculate the loan. So they live with what monthly. They also calculate what is a month at the end of each month. What is the principal balance, the principal balance, and also the interest that should be paid at the end of each month. Also, we want to see the outstanding balances and the accrued interest. Right. So the challenge now is that the process is time consuming and it is really prone to error. And so this it lacks what the standardization. Now this is where we then come in addition, right? Also, when the numbers of a period or the tenor of changes, the formula has to be restructured manually. This is a case of we working on loan template, loan schedules, and we find out that what monthly we manually do all the calculations before we arrive at our numbers at the end of the month. The one challenge is that what this affects what the turnaround time of operational report is actually what very slow, and it is prone to error. Just like I said earlier on too, when there's a change in one or two things, then what we have to restructure the old template manually, and this is also what the formula can break in between as well. All right, so now we're going to be looking at this, and our approach is basically going to be what? So we are going to be working on it together as the analysts of the treasury, the finance and the treasury team of Nova Bank. So first thing we're going to be doing is we look at how can we automatically generate the repayment method, the repayment period. So when I automatically want to look at, we're going to be creating a template that will look at all the inputs that are required for all the input of this particular of each loan, and what we do is we are going to create and automatically generate a repayment period using different using our modern Excel. Also, we're going to be computing the interest and also the principal payment row by row, right? So this we look at different parameters that are going to be in the template. So without wasting much of our time, we'll go into this and let's start from the beginning, and at the end of the day, let's see what we'll be able to come up with. So first thing we're going to do is what? Let's have we're going to have our Excel file open, a blank Excel, to show that we are starting from what? From ground zero, and we move up that level. Now, what are the parameters that are required for us to get this? So yeah, let me say I'll first of all create what we call the control sheets. First of all, create a control sheet that will serve as a what? Backend, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be automating and also adding some things will be working at the back end. Also, create some data validation in the Excel so as to to maintain consistency and integrity of our data. We're also going to be having some input cells that needs to that gets that the parameters has to be the varies, and also then before we go ahead to create our templates. First thing I'm going to look at is okay, let me reduce this. This is my just usual practice. So at the end of the day, I'll just come back and say, I'll come back here. So when it comes to the design, I'll come back and work on this. But first thing first, let's go and get the job done. All right, so some of the parameters that we need for this particular process is, say the first one I need is, let's say the beneficiary or the bank. Let me say the bank. Oh, sorry, this is my control. Okay, let me just, let me see, loan. Right, let me have another control sheet. Yes, of course, this is my control sheet. That's where I'm going to be doing the backend. So first thing, I need a bank, right? What's the name of the bank that will be that will be using? Also, I also need some of the parameters is what? The next one is the financial instruments. What kind of what? Financial instrument are you dealing with? Right. So part of the parameter that we need is when do you want to start the loan? When is the starting period of this loan? And also when is it going to end? So I'll say the start period, right? I also need the end period. Start period is saying when I'm starting, and also how long do we intend to get this loan for? So if you are taking a loan from the 1st of January and you are going to, the plan is for the loan to run till 2028. That will be the end period, or can put the maturity date. Also in between this, we also like to know how many days in total is this loan taking? Right. Then I also want to know the principal amounts. Those are the parameters I will need. Then what is the interest rate? Let me see. Interest rates. Right. Then there's one other thing that we need, which is what we've seen. We have one cell that's telling us how many days is this loan going to be for, because the number of days will help us to then calculate our accrued interest as we proceed. Also, in terms of a month, right, we want to see how many months. Okay, I think I can come to number of days. Let me see duration. Let me call this one duration. I'll put in bracket days. Right. Okay. Come here and say duration, and this is going to be what? In months. This is going to be in months. Right, then I can then proceed to then start adding the different parameters. Now, for example, the bank, I want to see, because we deal with different banks, I don't just want anyone to come in here and just enter any bank. For example, somebody can come and type UBA as in UBA, right? Another person can come and type it United Bank of Africa, right? I want to be able to be in charge of what people put into my templates. So first thing I'm going to do is to say, first of all, identify what are the input cells. What are the cells that people need to enter the loan parameters into, right? And what are the calculated cells? So all these, okay, I'm going to be assigning, okay, come. All right, so let me just call it the cursor, the input cells. Let me use this color. So to say, wherever you see this color, it simply means what? This is an input cells, right? Then let me validate each cell. For example, let me come to my control sheet. I'll then say, okay, here I have banks. So what are the banks that I want? I want UBA, I want Stanbic, IBTC, I want what Tegara Bank again. The different bank we are getting this from. Or you can call it vendor, whatever you want to, beneficiary, anything you want to call it. Right, let me add one more to it. Let me say FBN. Where else are we getting this from? Okay, these three, but we can always add more to it. But because of time, we make this a table. Right, and I want to name this table. Okay, bank table, that's the name of the table. All right, so what I'm going to do is, in my loan parameter, when anybody wants to come to the loan, the input cell for bank, what they need to do is to want to pick from the selection. So I'm going to create a data validation to get this, and I will use shortcut AVV to bring up my data validation. All right, then I'll be using the list option here. Now, what is my source? My source is on the control sheet. I'm just going to say, this is it. Then, okay. Okay, so by default, whoever needs to come here, we have to pick from the selection. Whoever needs to come here, we pick from the selection. So when I pick come here, I can pick the bank of my choice, then financial instruments. Okay, so I'll create a validation for that as well. Call this financial instruments. So this can be different instruments, right? It can be an LC, it can be bond, it can be CP, which is commercial paper. Okay. This again, I'll turn it to a table using Control T. This is the best format that I prefer. Right, so for this as well, if I go back to my template, again, I want to what? I want to validate this particular set so that nobody can come and enter anything, right? So can you remind me what was the shortcut that I used in bringing up my data validation earlier on? Created my data validation using the shortcut in Excel, and that shortcut is what? Is Alt AVV. Alt A V and V and another V. So that's making two Alt AVV. I'll pick a list, come to the source, then control page down to come to the next sheet. Then I pick the options that I have here and I hit on. Okay, so I validated the second what? The second cell as well. Here it can be bond, it can be what? Letter of credit, or whatever I want. Now is the debt type. What kind of debt is it? Is it going to be a fixed or what? Let me get debt type. Is it going to be a fixed or floating? Fixed debt or floating, so let's say fixed. Again, I want to control what people enter into my data, and that is why what I'm creating this whole validation from the backend, right? Okay, and then come back here again and do Alt AVV, Alt A, V, and V. So it brings up my data validation. I change those from what to list, which is what I need. And for me to go to the next sheet, which is my control sheet, all I just used to do control, page down, it takes me to that sheet. Then I reference what I have here and I hit enter. So I've done that for the date type as well. So let me pick fixed for this. All right. So the next one now is, thank you. The next one is what? The start period. Again, I want to stay by what? My data, part of the issue is what? Data integrity. I don't want to say by somebody can come into my template and just type where it needs to type date, is typing what Sadiq Yusuf. It's not supposed to be. So that's why I'm taking my time to validate my cells from the beginning. So these two cells are what are meant to be in date of AVV to quickly validate. All right. So this now is going to be a date. So we can pick validation now is going to be date. Right, because I'm starting this, let's say I'm starting in 2020, I'm just going to say you cannot take any date less than, okay, say was greater than, greater than or equals to what? I'll just say again 31st of December in 2020, or let me say 2019, for instance. So when I do okay, right, so here if I come and say Sadiq is not going to allow it, right? So I can enter a date, let's say 1st of June, see, 1 June. Also say what the end date can then be August 2025. So the start and the end date of my loan. Now the next thing now is the duration in days. How many days? So knowing the start and the end date. So how many days is my date? My what? My loan in days. What's the duration? So I'm going to say, so to get duration, I will use a function that's called the days function. The days function in Excel, and we can see that what the days function return the number of days between two dates. So how many days do you want between 2 days? Also, if your goal is also to remove the weekends, you just want the work days, right? You will use what the net. We also have a function that's called the net work days. So help to return number of all work days between 2 dates, and it's going to exclude weekend. So depending on which one you want to use, for me, I'm going to what? We are using the days for this. And what's my start date? My start date is this particular cell, C6. And another thing I want here is I would like to name all the cells. I would like to name all the cells. So instead of this being 66, I can come here and say, okay, let me come to this. I can call this one banks. Call it bank. That's the name of this cell. This is what? Financial instrument, fin instruments. Okay. Then this debt type, just come here, I call it debt type. Now again, I'm naming my cells. This should be start dates for this, and this should be end dates. Right. So this one I'm calling what? Days, number of days. Right. So here we then use the days function equals to days. Okay. The day function in Excel, right? So it needs my start date and it also needs the end date. So now I can then say my start date is it. So instead of picking C6, you call it what start date, then comma the end date. This is the end date. Then I close the bracket. I get what? The number of days. The number of days between my start date and the end date. Well, let me see. Okay, let me go in, zoom in. So why is this giving me negative? How many days do I have? I can use the days, okay? And let me see why this is giving me negative. I can say, okay. I can say how many days do I have? Let me try this. How many days do I have between this, comma, then let's pick it this way, the other way around. So, okay, so it's taking the other way around, which is my days function now. Okay, I read it. Oh, I read it the other way around. So it's actually end date first. So I thought I was reading start date first, then comma, right? The start date coming last, exactly. Then I close the bracket and hit enter. So this will give me what? The total number of days. Then another thing, okay, let me just proceed. Then here is the principal. Again, the principal, you're going to type it in. So I'm just going to make this an input cell. This, I'll make it an input cell. Just come to style, make it inputs. Interest rate as well should be the same thing. So copy the formatting Alt HFP. I'll do Alt HFP. You can see now it brings up my format printer and I click on this. So both of them now are input cells. Then duration in months. Duration in months. So how many months is between what? The start date and the end date. How many months do we have between the start date and the end date? So for me to achieve this, I'm going to use, let me use another function, which is I'll use the date difference function. The date difference function. And this is one of the hidden functions that we have in Excel, the date diff. It is date diff, means the difference between two dates. Right? I open the bracket and you need to know the function, the argument itself. So the first thing you need to give this is the start date, which is this. Then the next thing is the end date, which is this. Then now need to specify what kind of difference you want to see. Is the difference going to be, do you want to see in days, in months, in quarter, or in year, right? So here, since I want it to be in months, I open a quote, I put M there. M represents months. Then close the quotes, and also I will close the brackets. Now this tells me that what? We have 26 months in between what? Between those two dates. Now these are my parameters. So I still have some parameters I'm going to add, but then, okay, let me just say days in the year. How many days in the year? So, and some other parameter that I would like to add. But this, let's proceed. As we proceed, then we can always come back here and either add to these parameters or not. So for these ones, I'll make them a calculation cells. This is calculation. Right, let me use this. You can see, and I want to centralize the figure. So the same thing is what I want to do at HFP. Then copy it to the number of months that we have. Then also in my template, I can just put at the top here to say what you should only edit the cells in color, the color brown. Every other one, just what, let it stay on its own. Now, I now want to start creating my loan schedule. So how is this going to be calculated? So let me create the headings. What are the headings that I need here? Now, remember in Libra Consulting, we have different frameworks that we use in working on on data when it comes to data generally, whether you're working on financial data, the business data, the HR data, operational data, everything still follow the same process. So we have the different framework that we use for you to know. First thing is we have a framework that's called the orderly framework, which helps you to know what exactly is your data problem. We have the orderly frameworks that helps in that. Also, for you to structure your data for analysis, we also have another framework that is for you to know your data problem. We have a framework that is called the Maestro framework to know what challenge do you have in your data. And in one of our webinars, we have actually treated that framework. So we also have another framework that helps us to know how do you need to structure your data when it comes to so that it is easy for reporting. And in that, we have a framework that's called the orderly framework, right? So one of the rule in there is that all your data types must be in a column. So the different data types must have their own separate column, right? So you need to go back to some of our past webinars to see what you have a full understanding of what these frameworks are talking about. So let's quickly go into building our schedule. Now, first thing I want to get is also what are the headings that I need here. I need the serial number, a numbering system, right? I want to see the banks. I'll see the banks. Also, what exactly is the financial instrument that we're actually working on, so that everybody's aware. Financial instruments, right? What else do I want to see? Okay, so next thing I would like to see now is the payments, the months that we have, right? So, and we will continue having. Let me just give this maybe to extend to this line. Let me give it a brief. Okay, let me give it. I think I love this. Let me change the color to white. I can bolden it. Yes. All right. Now, let me start from here. So the serial number, I'll come back to it so you understand what I intend to do. So on the bank column here, what I want you to do is to replicate the banks and all the banks that we have, right? So for this to be done, we're going to say, okay, we use a function in Excel, one of our the modern function in Excel, the dynamic array function. And in this, we're going to be using a function that's called the by row. You say go row by row and replicate the bank. So we use a by row statement, and this statement also we also have a webinar that has talked about the different dynamic arrays. So here we just want to see the business implication, how you can implement it in your day-to-day working. So it is an array, right? So for me, this is just my array. This bank, I'll pick this, right? Then the next thing is the function. I will then use the lambda function to get this done, right? So we've watched a video about our lambda function. So here I will say, okay, give me a row. And what do we want to see? We want to just see in all the rows, give me in all the rows. Okay, sorry, my Excel. Okay, so in all the rows, what are you going to give me? So I want to say, I said these banks should be replicated actually. And when it's replicated, because we have 26 months, it will take us 26 months to make this payment. So it should be replicated 26 times. Right, so we then say, let me come back and say equals to, let me zoom in and say by row, right? So array is saying how many number of times. So what are the arrays that you're looking at? I'm looking at 26 in my array. Then I'll then use the lambda function to say in my lambda, I'll just represent it a variable, use R to say R. I love using R and C to represent rows and column. So what do you want to put in the rows? I want to put the banks. So I pick the banks now and I close the bracket for lambda and also close the bracket for my by row function. And before you know it, is now going to So this is giving me just one thing, but I need it to be replicated how many times? The 26 times. So that is where my serial number now comes in, which is to say, now use sequence And then, so that's the need for identify each of the months. I will then use the sequence function to say, okay, I need to replicate this the number of times. So mean, let's say sequence. So we are looking at 26 months, right? So give me this and close the brackets, enter. So it's on its own, at the sequence function, automatically it creates an array of 26 rows for me. It creates an array of 26 rows for me. So now that is now what I need to reference in my by row function. So instead of saying by row and just pick what only this cell, I will say the number of times that you have my serial number. And come. And say, okay, click on this, then highlight this. And when I hit enter now, so the bank 2 will then be replicated the number of times my serial number is showing. So the same thing for the financial instrument. I'm going to write the same formula for it, but now it's going to be for financial instrument. We just say by row, using the by row. It needs what array. How many array do you want me to show? So I need it to show the number of times that you have this showing. This is the array. What do I want to show in the total in that array? I'm now going to use a lambda function to say R, which is my variable. I want to show for every row. R there means what? If you're in row 1, R is going to be 1. R is actually a variable. When you get to the second row, R becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on like that. And I just needed to show me my what? The financial instruments. So we close the bracket twice for this as well, and we hit enter. So now we first of all use our by row function to getting this done. We use the what? By row function to getting this done. Then the next thing now is to go to the next what? The next area, which is a month. So remember, the challenge that we have is that monthly, all these calculations are done manually. These calculations are done manually. So when it gets to the end of January, I just come, for example, now when it gets to the end of each month, it may be January, I just come to the end of that month and say, you know what, for this month, this is what we have. This is the month end. So we need to write a function that will generate the end of each month for us till the very last month of our loan. So automatically on its own, instead of us dragging it out to the right or to the left, on its own, it looks into the parameter that we provided and it's going to generate what? The number of what? All the months for us. And to do this, again, right, so I want this month to be in array. I'm now going to use a function that is called make row. Make array, sorry. Call this make array. I want to make my month an array. Basically, this is what I want to do, to use the function is to say, I want to see the end of each month. So for me to get the end of each month now, in Excel, we use the function called the EO month, right? To say, I want to give me the end of this particular month. This is the date, and say comma. So if just that particular month is going to be 0. If it is the next month, it's going to be 1. If it is next 2 months, it's going to be 2. Do you get it now? So let me say 0 now and close the bracket. You see that gives me just what? Okay, this is a number. And to convert, remember in Excel, you're either working with text or you're working in number. Even our date is a number. And for me to quickly convert this to a date in Excel, I'll just do Control-Shift-3. Control-Shift-3. You can see now. On its own, it gives me what? The end of that particular month. So if I put 1 here, 1, it's giving me the end of the next month. So what we want to do here is that, you know what? Come and to this parameter, look at the first month and generate what? Months sequentially for us till you get to the last month that we have in our parameter. That is from June now. So the first month that we have is the end of June, end of July, August, September, up till you get to the end of August of 2025. So instead of me now changing this number one after the other. So I will use what? A function in Excel, the array function in Excel, the dynamic array function. And in this type, and also I want to say generate this month for me and also make it an array. One after the other, they should be coming. So I'll use a make array function to then say, you know what? It's not asking me, make array is asking me how many rows of data do you want? How many rows do you want? Okay, you know what? I need, since we have 26, give me 26 rows. Then how many column? You know, I just need this single column. So I'll give it 1, then comma, it needs a function. So it needs a lambda function for it to work. And there's a lambda. You can see, you are going to see, this is where you see the power of our lambda function. All right, here now, I want to say, so we are dealing with rows and column here. So I'll use my R. Remember, I said I love using R to represent row, then comma, C to represent column. But the thing is, you can use any variable. You can use what? Any variable. Right? So let's say comma. Now, what do I want? I want what? I want the EO month, the end of month. Give me the end of month. And it's asking me start dates. There's my start date. This is start dates. And another reason why you need to name your ranges is so that when you are referencing things in your formula, you quickly know where it is coming from. Then comma what? Comma. Now, I want to change whereby when it's in the first row, it is 1. When it's in the second row, it is 2, 3, 4. That row should be dynamic, right? So here, now remember I said what? My R represent row, C represent column. So I'm now going to say R. So R is now the variable there, which means what? In the first row, R is 1, in the second row, R is 2. So I close the brackets for EO months, then close the bracket for my lambda formula function, and also close the bracket for the array function. And then let's see how this works. Let's see how this works. Can you see it has generated what? It ran what set of dates for me. So let me convert this to dates. I'll just do Control Shift down and shortcut again, Control Shift 3 to convert it to dates. To convert it to date, you can now see that what we now have July, August, September, October. So the end of this is the end of this 2023. Then continue in 2024. So we're looking at the end of each month till let's see the last month it gives us. Can you now see now? The last month it gives us now is what? Is August 2025, which is also the same thing as the ending period for that date. That means so for the loan. So if I change this now to say, okay, we are not doing August, you know what? We are doing let's even say August 2024. That's like 1 year. I'll change this 25 to 24. Automatically, when you look at my templates, okay, sorry, what am I doing? When you look at this, is what by default it is now reduced down to 2014 instead of 26 that we have, and we can see everything is now running from July down to August. Right, that's one way. But now there's a challenge here, which is that my loan starts in June, but what the loan interest calculation start from here now to start calculating my interest. So it should not be at the end of July. It should start from end of June. It should start at the end of June. So now I need to now add something to my formula, which is now to say, you know what? I need what? So here, instead of this month, so let me this now. Let me cut it because we're coming there. We are now going to say, we're going to use the if function to say for what's called the first row should always be the end of my starting period, and it should always stop at the end of the end period. Right. So I'm now going to say if what, because it's going to be a lot of functions. Let me try this. If the if function, we say if my R, remember R, which is row, so an R is the variable, it changes, right? If my R equals to 1, that is if I'm in row 1, what do I want? Comma, give me what? Give me the start dates. Give me the start dates. Then comma. Else, just give me the end of month for all of them. Then I close the brackets. Once again, I hit enter. And I hit enter. Can you see it's now giving me what it has skipped August? Because now when R equals to 1, right, it gives me what? This. In fact, even before using this, I can just say before the if, because I can say, okay, instead of doing this, why not just say for every month, just do -1. Let's see, every month -1. So it gives me what I want now, exactly. So this is now going to be what? So this is 1. That's a 1 minus 1. That's the previous month. 2 minus 1 up to. But then you will then see that what? This did not get to the last month, which is now the challenge. When you use the date difference, by default, if we count from June to the end of that, it should be 15 months, not 14. But what the difference does is it is going to remove what? It leaves the first month for you, right? So here, should always, at every point in time, we always add that 1 to it. For example, now, okay, let me see. Let me show us. This is June, right? Let me change this to August 2023. Then we see the difference now. Now, can you see? June to August is 3 months, not 2 months. June, we need to include June. So it's not including June. So it's starting from July, August. No, that's with June, July, and August. So for everything you give us here, when I want to say, for everything you give us here, just add 1 to it. Just add one extra month to it. Let's say +1. So now we'll be getting the actual number of months in between. So June to August now is 3 months and not 2 months. So if I change this to 2024, or let me do 2025 now, right? So we then see that we start from the first month, and the last month is now going to be, okay, I've not changed this. Let me change this one too. Ctrl+Shift+3 to that's the end of the last month. Now we've worked on the month, the month now. So anytime you go into the template and you change the months, right, the next thing that will happen is what? On its own, it gives you the automatically generate from the start period down to the end period. Now, for us now to calculate what would be the what, because remember in primary or in the primary and secondary school, we are taught how to calculate loan, principal rate, and time, right? So we need the time. This is just the end of each month. We then need what? How many days in each month? How many days do we have in each month? Because the days are not the same. Let me even make it days. Let me call it days in months. Right, so for each of the months now, how many days do we have, so that we can then be calculating? The calculation varies. Remember, in some days, in some months there are 30 days, some are 31. In fact, February, for example, it can be 29, it can be 28. So it varies. So we need to know how many days do we have in each month. So let's see the month. So for us to know the number of days that we have in each month, it simply means that what? It simply means we want to pull out, it simply means from here, we want to pull out what? Only the days for each of the months. And I can use a function that's called day, the day function to pull only days, then close the bracket. Okay, I can say this. So I need to reference all the array so that it becomes what? An array function as well, right? And I close the brackets, enter. Gives me 30, 31, and so 30, 31, 29, right? But there is a challenge here. Another thing we also need to factor in is this is an ideal situation. The ideal situation here is that our loan, we got the loans. Let me come now. The loans are coming on the 1st of June and it's ending at the end of this part at the month. What if we are getting the loan at the middle of that month? For example, if the loan is coming on, let me say 16. If the loan is coming on the 16th, now I cannot be calculating interest for 30 days. It has to be what? The remaining 14 days. So the interest has to be calculated for 14 days. So what do I do for this to also what? To change. So it simply means that I'm now going to what? I'm going to change this to now say, you know what? You need to go to each of them. For example, mostly it only always affects the start date and the end date. Right? First thing we are considering is, what if my start date is not even at the beginning of the month? Then we now come back again to then consider, what if my end date is also not at the beginning of the month? It's not at the end of the month. So here, then we say equals to this make array, right? So that we can use our lambda function. How many rows? I need just what? How many rows do I want? These are the rows that I want. It's asking me for the number of rows. So whatever number that I have here will be the number of rows that I need in my array. Then comma, how many column do I need? So it's just one column. I put one there, then comma. Now function, here I'm now going to be using the lambda function. So in the lambda function now, remember I love using my R, C, which is row, column, to say that look at, we know that the issue is always the first and last month. So always look at the first month and check. So for the first month now, you need to do some calculation to say whatever number that you have here, right? So give us the dates. The dates that you have here is the date. So in fact, it should also even come from the month that we have here. From here, it should give me the specific date that we are starting. So it should not just be end of this particular month. So I will come and then say, okay, I want to what? I want to review, or I want to edit or modify this particular function, especially this month function. We'll go back to it. I think we'll be going back to it multiple times as our recommendation changes. Now, what do I want to do is to say, always for the first row, do not give me the end of the month. Just give me you can give me the date that it actually starts. And for the last one too, give me the date that it ends. Do you get now? So from there, we'll now be able to pull out only the specific month that we're looking for. Okay. Here now, I will then say if, because the condition is now much, I will use the if function to say, if my row is the first row, give me the actual date that we started the loan. Also, if my date is, if I'm on the last row, right, what do? Give me the last date, the particular date that the loan will end. But for every other month, just give me the last month. Again, what I want to do is to make sure that what? In the first row, they do have the 16th of June, 2023. And when it gets to the last row, as well, it should not be showing me the end of August, right? So what if my end date is not the end of August, like I explained earlier on? What if it is on the 13th, instead of 31, it's 13th of August, right? So it should be showing me what? The last day of August, and the 13th of August as the last date of my loan, and not the end of August. So what do? So we come here to say, you know what? Let me zoom in. Now we will now edit this. We now have multiple conditions. Say if multiple condition, and the first condition now is that what? Is that if my, okay, I should have named this particular set instead of C11. Okay, I'll go back and name it so we can go back to it. So if my what? If my R equals to 1, if it's the first row, what do I want? Always give me the start date, whatever I have here. What do I have? Zoom back so I can give me the start dates. Zoom in. So I click on it or I type it. comma, that's the first command. Then also, if my R, where's my R, if it is equals to the last row, how do I know the last row? If it is equals to whatever number that I have here, right? Also, give me what? The last date. Where is the for end period? I'll just say end date. End date. Give me the end date. Else, what I need you to do is what? Just give me R minus 1, right? But what we now do is we now say, so if it is not both of these, we say and with the and function to say if it doesn't belong to this, if R is now greater than 1, right? And my R as well is less than what? The last number that we have here, the number that we have here, which is the start and the end date. What do I want? Those two conditions. What do you want? I want it to now give me the EO months, right, for the start date, comma, R minus 1, comma, what? R minus 1. So I close the bracket for the EO months. Now close the brackets for my ifs, then close the bracket for my lambda and for the make array. For the make array. So you can see now 16th of June, and when I go to the last one, let me see, it's giving me what? 13th of July, but I see an issue here. I'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. All right, so let's now go. We'll now go to what brought us back. We'll go back to what brought us back, and what is that? That is to say the days in the months. We're looking for the days in the months now. So for me to get the days in the months, so we all know that what? My days function will no longer work again. If I use the day function, it will only pick 16 for me for this particular month, and it is not 16. We're not paying loan for 16 days. We loan is starting from the 16th, so we're only paying loan from the what? The rest of the dates. So here I will now also what? Implement something to say if my row is the first row, right? Always pick what? Pick whatever I have here. Can you use me? For whatever I have here, then subtract from the last date. Then also, if it is last row too, just pick the numbers that we have there. So I'm now going to say, okay, so day is not going to work. And again, I want to make it an array. So I'll say make array. How many rows are we looking at? Okay, I said I was going to name this. Let me call it. This is duration that we're looking at here. Duration. So I can always reference it. Right. I'll then say, okay, make it an array. What am I making an array? How many rows am I creating? The duration. Now this is well referenced. How many columns? Just one column. And I need the lambda function. Again, in my lambda, remember we say R, C. In your case, you can use X, Y. You can use A, B. So you can use anything there. So I use R and C. Then comma. Now I can now use my words. I can say, what do I want? So say what I want is to say, you know what? If this is the first one, I'll come back. If this is the first one, what am I doing? If this is the first one, right? Give me the date, right? Give me the date. And if not, then give me the end month. So let me just put it in context so that we all can understand what I'm trying to do. Equals to make array. What's first in row? We put our duration, so I don't need to be going there again. Duration. How many columns? One column. Then I call my lambda function to say R, C. Now, when I'm going to always look at the position. So if the position of this, what I have here, if position of my what? Of I would then say, okay, give me the index. I'll then combine it with index. Now we're getting what? We're expanding the scope. The index of what? Of this whole column. All right. Now see, what I really want, many row, comma R, close index. Now, so if it is the same thing as, well, if whatever we have here is same thing as the start dates, which is the same thing as the start, if it is the start date as this, so index will go row by row, right? To look for, it looks at each row. Then whenever you find anything that is always the same thing as the start date, what do I want? I want you to say, okay, pick the end of the month for that particular month, EO month. So pick end of the month for the start date, right? Because it's only start date, you put 0. For start dates, close the brackets. Now minus the start date itself. This is what I was explaining. So just pick the end of the month minus this particular date. So it's going to be 30th of June minus 16th of June. Then that will give us the actual number of days that we have in between. So give me this, right? Else, what do I want? Just give me the day from what? Again, I would then use what? The index. The day from what? The index of whatever I have on this column, and comma, okay, comma R, close the brackets, for index, close the brackets, okay, that's for day, then close the bracket for what again? For the if, then for the what? Lambda, and for the make array, and let's see what we have. Okay, see, my bracket is not complete. You know what? Complete it for me, and let me see what we will now have. Let me see what we'll now have. Then we'll then see that what's, you see, for all of them, we have what? Just, and also the month, for the last day of the month, the last, when the loan will end, it is also not going to the last day of that month. It's only picking what? It's only the 13th day of that month. That's the first 13 days. Right. Now, we identify a challenge earlier. But before I go into that challenge, I want all of us to go into the charts, and type one array function. Just type two array functions. I need two array functions that we've used in this session. Type any two array functions that you've seen us use in this function, in this webinar so far. Type any two in the charts. Let's type into the chat. What are the two array functions you've seen me use in this webinar? Let's have our feedback. I think there's a delay in between the type on what you type and when I get to see it. Okay. All right, people. Yes, you've seen us using Lambda. You've seen us using what? The make array. What else? Okay. All right. So let's solve this one problem. Then we can what? After solving this problem, we then what? Listen to what we have for us, and we go into the other half and complete this template. Now, when you look at the months, when you look at all the months here, right, the month looks fine, except the last 2 months. Now we have June 2025, if you check, May, April, May, June, then instead of July, it's just jump to August. Why do we have that? So if you count, how many months do we have between those two periods? I think I should always use this. Let me come back here. Instead of 2025, let me change this to 2024. can see, 2023 actually, so that it is very easy for us to understand. Now you say we have 2 months, but is that what we have? We have 3 months: June, July, August. So the reason why it is telling us that we have 2 months, the reason why it's telling us we have 2 months is because it is looking at when we started the loan. So from 16th, it's counting 16 to 16. 16th of June to 16th of July is 1 month. 16th of July to 16th of August is another month. Right? So you can see that it is not even completed. So it should be June 1st, then July, that's the end of June, July, and also what? The mid of what? August that we have. So what happens here is because it is not up to a month, so it does not give us the month as 3. So we are now going to edit our formula once again. So to say, you know what, it's looking at the days. Yeah, it's looking at the days. So long it is not up to a full month, right? It is not going to see it as a full date. So what will then happen is we then say, okay, you know what? Looking at the days in front of this, looking at the days, anytime we have a day, anytime we have this day minus the day that we have here, anytime we have the day that we have on this minus, when you minus it from the day that we have on the closing, on the end period, right? So if it is not, if it is less than 1, if it is negative, that is, if it is not up to, since we understand that if this is not up to 16, it is not going to see it as a whole month. So we are now going to what? Update our formula to say, you know what? If this is now less, if it is the day on the start date is much more than what? The day that we are ending it, right? So add another 1 month to it. Add what? Another 1 month to it. So now I'm going to come here and say, so our ifs as well. To then see, so we have said if, right, our start date equals to the duration, right? This duration. No, if r equals to 1, that's the first one, give us the duration. Then secondly, if give us the start date, if it is equals to the last date, give us the end date, right? Then we'll now add another one to say, you know what? We're looking at in between this. Also, we also want to see that what if the day between both of them, if the days between both of them, just I can say, okay, we can say, okay, add if the day between both of them is this, then add an additional 1 to it. So here, so we now edit this to let's say, you know what? Let me see. Can say if, where should I add this? Okay, let me add it here to say if the, now, so we are, since we are using if days, the day function now, let me come here and say the day function between the start dates. No, I can't put it here actually because I want to determine if I want to add an additional month or not. I then say plus if now, so I'm adding a new one to say if the day from the start date, okay, instead of me going, I'll just say start, is that start date, if we minus it from the day of the end date, right? If it is now giving, so if it is less than 1, that is, if it is negative, give us 1, else give us 0, add an additional 0. Let's now see what this will do for us. Now what it add. Oh, sorry, this is where we should be adding it on this particular one. Okay, so this, since this is what's controlling it, Let me just undo. I can't remember. Okay. So here now is where we should add it to say, you know what, from whatever we have on the month, and I say okay, plus if the day between the start date, that is minus, if you minus it from the day of the end dates, right? If these two now, the moment it is less than 1, right, give us, if so the moment it is greater than 1, give us 1, else give me 0, right? Sorry, I'm saying less than 1. Yeah, if it is, yeah, that's what I used earlier. So if it is less than 1, right, give me 1, comma 1, else give me 0. Now I had what? Add this to this. I think I missed this. Let me just see if it is, since it's negative that I'm trying to consider, if it's greater than 0 actually, right, give me 1, else, aha. So I'm now going to see what I'm going to see next. Now June, July, and August. So by the time we come back here now and change this particular one from 2023 to 2025, what will happen? I will now see all the months. So it is not supposed to be 26 in the first place, it should be 27. Considering that what? That difference in days. So with this now, we looked at the different scenarios that can come with our days. So next now is for us to now go ahead and start what? Calculating. So we'll do one more thing, then we'll now go and see what we have for us on our financial modeling academy, financial modeling this scholarship. So yeah, let me see rates. So because we are going to calculate. So can somebody tell me in the chat, I want to replicate all the rates that we just have on this. Do we have a column for it? Did we? Okay, did we? Okay, yes, we create a column for it, but we not put anything there. Let's say my rate is 5.7, and this should always be in percentage. Okay, I should do 5.7%, right? So I would like to replicate, so that for me to calculate what the interest rate that's going to be on each of them, I would like to replicate the rates across all of them. Can anyone remind us how we replicated all this? What function did we use? What function did we use to replicate? Just want to replicate one thing. Thank you. We use the lambda the by row function. Zoom in, say because now by row, we are using the by row function to say what's the array. So let's continue using we can use any number. Let me continue using the serial number. Right. Then what do I want? I want the lambda. Okay, for what? I'll then say R, comma, what do I want to see in this particular column? So I want to see the interest rate. Did I name it? I'm not sure I named it. So let me just go into the column, the cell itself. Okay. Yes, I did not name that. Close the bracket for this. Thank you. And I hit enter. Now it gives me what? Our rate across board. Our rate across board. And if I to change this to percentage, I can be changing percentage, Control Shift 5. And I want it in 2 decimal places. So it gives me my number in percentage. So the next one is, let's now look at all our principal as well. So you can guess in type in the chat, what are we also going to use to get the principal. But before we go there, let's see what we have for us on Financial Modeling Academy.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'll be taking you through what the Financial Modeling Academy is about. My name is Oluwasegun Ifedi. I am the Academy Advisor at D Brown Consulting for the Financial Modeling Academy program. So I'm just going to be taking you briefly on what you can expect in the Financial Modeling Academy. So the Financial Modeling Academy is an online 8 weeks self-paced program where we are training you on how to build financial models from scratch and also preparing you to write the Advanced Financial Modeler Accreditation exam. So as you can see on the screen, there are these are some of the things that you would be getting through the program. So we'll just go straight into it. Once you enroll, this is what you're going to be getting when you enroll into the program. So we have 3 different routes to go through to enter through the program. We have the African student route. So this particular route is a route that is for basically undergraduate students or students of accredited professional institutions. So professional institutions like ICANN, ACCA, CFA, CITN, and the like. So these are some of the institutions that you can qualify for to get qualified or eligible for the African student route. Right. So this particular route, as you can see on the screen, goes for $150 only. And these are some of the things you're going to be getting within the program. You're getting the main Financial Modeling Academy course, which is valued at $1,200. We have the FMI exam. That's the level 1 AFM exam, which is the Advanced Financial Modeler Accreditation exam, valued at $725. The prices has increased from the Financial Modeling Institute. You're also getting 2 primer courses, which are for Excel and also, like an accounting primer, which is the Excel fundamentals for financial modeling. The Excel fundamentals for analysts and the fundamental skills for financial modeling. So those are the 2 primer courses you get immediately once you register for the program. We also have the some exam prep courses that you get, some resources that you get within the program to prepare for the exam, which is the Advanced Financial Modeler exam step-by-step guide course and the AFM exam practice and review videos courses. So these 2 courses are basically what you need in terms of preparing for the exam. So while you are preparing, while we're training you on how to build my financial models from scratch, we're also preparing you to write the AFM exam. And you're not going to do all of this on your own because, as I previously mentioned, it's a self-paced and online program. But you're not doing it all on your own. You're going to have access to 2 wonderful communities. You're getting access to D Brown's community called Agile Minds, and you're also getting access to FMI's global community of financial modelers called the Mighty Networks, right? So you are getting also community access, and you're also getting support. So as you're going through this program on your own, you're also going to have little accountability hubs within the program where you are kind of studying with other people as well. So you're going to have like a hub of about 5 to 6 members, and you're holding each other's hands, you're holding each other accountable throughout the rest of the program. So you're not doing it on your own. You also have me as your academy advisor. You'd have David Brown as well to answer any questions you have, and that's leading me to my next point, which is the live Q&A sessions. So during the 8 weeks program, for that period of that 8 weeks, you're going to have live Q&A sessions every Saturday by 3 p.m. with David Brown. So any questions that you have based on the module that was released for that week, you would have access to him to ask any questions that you have. He's there to respond to any of them. So this is for the African student route. So the next route is the African resident route. So this particular route is more for professionals or members of professional institutions like ICANN, CFA, CITN, CIS, and the likes. This particular route is basically for Africans residing within Africa, so and excluding South Africa. So this particular route is still going to cover everything I mentioned in the previous slide. You're getting the same thing. It's just that this is a different way for you to be able to qualify for this program. So this particular route goes for $347 only. And then the final route is the non-African resident route. So this particular route is basically for the rest of the world, right? Africans residing outside Africa or non-Africans residing outside Africa, and also including South Africans. So it's basically covering the rest of the world plus South Africa. So again, this particular route is going to you're going to have everything like I mentioned in the previous slides. It's just a different way you can get access to this program. So this particular route goes for $972. only. And again, all these prices I'm calling, it's you're not paying anything else apart from these prices. So if you're an African student, you're only paying $150. If you're an African resident, you're only paying $347. And if you're a non-African resident, you're only paying $972. You're not paying for anything extra. You're not paying for extra trainings. You're not paying for live sessions or the exam. Everything is covered within this scholarship. This was brought to you by D Brown Consulting and the Financial Modeling Institute, who are based in Canada, right? So this is some of what you're getting when you enter into the program. But what you are going to be able to do at the end of the program, for instance, you'd be able to identify and understand, the essential Excel functions and tools. You're basically going to get better in Excel, how you use Excel and Excel functions. You're going to be able to apply best practices in terms of structuring your model. You're going to be able to learn a lot of things, and these are just some of the things that we listed here. And at the end of the day, when you've written the AFM exam and you've passed, you then become an accredited advanced financial modeler. You get to have the badge sent to you from the Financial Modeling Institute, and you also get to have AFM, the AFM designation attached behind your name. So these are just some of the things that you would be getting once you enroll into the program, and what you'll be able to do after taking the program. So we have 2 cohorts in a year. We have May and November. Currently, registrations for the November cohort are currently ongoing. So again, these are the 3 different routes that you can register through the program through. And if you want to get started, all you need to do is just put in this link into your browser, bit.ly/FMA routes, and then it should take you directly to a page where you are going to be able to register for the program. Or you can just pull out your phone and scan this code displayed on the screen. It will take you to the our central landing page. So you just click on the particular routes that you qualify for. Either you're an African student or an African resident or a non-African resident, you can just pick any that you qualify for and then begin your registration. Registration is very easy to do. Right on those pages, you would see the registration form. All you need to do is just put in your details, and then you would be prompted or directed to the payment portal. You put in your details and everything, and you would be immediately enrolled to your primer courses. Now, the November cohort is going to begin on the 17th of November, Monday, 17th of November. It will run for 8 weeks, and the registration deadline for this November cohort is 14th of November. So Friday, 14th of November, 2025 is when registrations will close for the for the November cohort. So all you need to do is just click on this, put in this link in your browser or scan this QR code, and it will take you directly to our pages, and then you can just go ahead to register from there. So any questions you have, would definitely take it towards the ending of the session. So I'll just hand over back to my colleague, Sadiq, to take the rest of the session.
All right, thank you very much, Oluwasegun. Please, everyone, let's confirm in the chat if you can hear me. So we are about to wrap up what we started. Okay. All right. So before we went on that break, you consider what we started building our template from start. Now we are automating it. Right, you can see that the automation is actually getting somewhere. We have the banks, the financial instrument are automated. If I come back here and check, okay, let's just go. Then for the months, this is where we spend most of the time looking at different scenarios. We look at how we can get end of month for each of them. So we now made it an array so that what it can go row by row. Then also we looked at what if your loan did not start at the beginning of the month. What if it's at the middle? What if it's at the end? Also, what if your loan is not also ending at the end of the month? So we factor in all this. We've also factored in all this into our into building this month column. So month on month, then we can see that what, and from there we then also get how many months, how many days in the month are we actually paying for. So rather than actually building this report, getting report daily, monthly, copying and paste, changing formulas and the likes, you cannot build an automated template like this that will automatically calculate your interest from beginning of the loan down to the end, and which is where we are going. So lastly, we also use our by row function. I think by row is one of the functions that we use, that we use the most here. For the first one, we use a sequence to get how many rows. For banks, we use the by row function, we use the by row. So same thing, we now want to go to the principal so that we can then calculate the accrued interest. Principal. I'll call this principal. What is our principal? How much did we borrow? So we come here now. This is where the principal should be. So I'll change this principal to 120 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. Now we have our principal. Control Shift 1 to give you the 1,000 separator. Right? We have the 1,000 separator. So we now need to what? We need to get what the total principal. We need to get it into this column so that we can then use it against the time. This is the time. This is day in the month is the time. This is the rate and the principal. Then once we have this, we can now calculate the accrued interest. Right? So here we then say equals to what? What do we use? Use the by row. By row. That by row means we go row by row. Row by row. It's not asking me how do I want to go row by row. I can pick any of the columns, but I just want to be start. Just want to use this, the serial number. I prefer using it, comma, in case anything breaks in between. Then I now use the lambda function to get the job done. Lambda, I need what? My row is only row that we needed. That's why we're not putting column. For row by row, we only need row. Right? Then what do we want to do? We want to replicate, want to bring our principal. Did I create anything from principal? No. So let me quickly go and rename it and call this, this is my principal. Principal. So that I can just reference it. Which other one? This is the interest. I'll call it rate. Right. Maybe, okay, this is duration. So I can come here now and say equals to by row. Right, what do I want? I want to use the serial number column, highlight everything, that is go row by row using this array. This is the row that I want, the array. Now I then use the lambda function, and in lambda function we don't need the row here, so I'll use R, comma what do I want to go row by row by row. So I need the principal, so I say principal. So I close the bracket. Assuming I want to multiply by anything, I can multiply, I can check. So if anything, but here is just statistics. That's why I'm using just principal, row by row. Right? Then close the bracket for lambda and close the bracket for by row. So with this now, Control Shift 1. Right? With this, we have the principal. We have the principal replicated across all the months. We have the principal replicated across all the months. So now we want to calculate our accrued interest. Accrued interest. As so much, okay, let me just proceed. So to calculate the interest, we use what? Our normal calculation from primary school, simple interest from primary school and secondary school, to say, okay, simple interest is not saying the principal multiplied by rate multiplied by time. Now our time now is what? It's going to be out of how many days we are taking this loan for 789 days, right? Now, so from this 7, so the time is not, so what fraction of 789 is this particular time? So it's now going to be principal. Where is it? The principal column. I'll highlight everything. And again, like we always say, you identify an array function when it does what? An ampersand, the hash sign, the after it, right? Then we say multiply by the rate, PRT. This is the rate. Then multiply by the time, which is now our what? Our month. Which is our month. So this our month, but this I like to put it in So because we are going to divide, just say this, then divided by number of days that we have. This 7, 8, 9 days. We're breaking it down to, because this calculation is in days. This is in days, so we're breaking it down to days. When you hit enter, you have your what? You have your interest, the monthly interest that you are going to be paying. And when you look at it, it's really for 14 days, it's 121,000. For 31 days, it's 268. It's going to be the same across 31 days and 30 days as well. So this is how much. So from the get-go, now look at this. From the get-go, if I enter anything into my template, I now know how much I need to be paying monthly. I know how much I need to be paying monthly as my accrued till the end of the tenure of that particular loan. But now there's one additional complexity that we need to add to it. Then we wrap up this webinar, which is the assumption here now is that what you take the loan, you are not paying anything on it. You're only paying the interest, the loans to the means. What if you are now refunding? You are doing a repayment. So when you are paying back to where you got the loan from, this balance, this principal has to be reducing. So I'll create one small table here. I'll call it the repayment table. So whenever I repay anything, whenever there's a repayment, this is what. Let me give you a cell style. Let's say heading 1. This is just for repayment. So under repayment, I need only the date of repayment, then the amount that was repaid. So this is where you always drop how much you paid, which is if I make any payment, if I make a repayment of, let's say, 30 million in October, my principal should no longer be this amount again. It should not be 120 million again. It should be reduced by 30 million, which is now going to be 90 million. So I'm going to add an additional column to this to say the repayment column. The repayment column. Right, what do I do? I'll call this now. This is now my repayments. Let me make any payment. See. Okay. Expand this. So I just need to get the value that you are paying. I only want to get the value that we are repaying. Okay, before I do that, let me just fill up this figure. Let's say we are paying something on what? On 31st of August, 31 August 2023. You're making another payment. Let's say December, 31 December 2024. Let me add one more to May 31 May 2024. Right, you're making 3 payments, and here, right, let me see, make this 120 million, make 10 million. Here you make 15. Here you make 5 million. So control shift 1. Oh, this 50 million. This will be 5 million. In fact, let's even make it 50 million actually. Okay, this can happen. Let me turn this to a table. No, just want this is a table. I'll call it the words. The repayment table. Repayments. So our repayment should be somewhere. This is a table. Now here I just want to go in there and bring in my repayments. So let me zoom in. So anytime we make a repayment, we use what? Anytime we have a repayment, it should what? It should reflect here, and it should be deducted from the amount that we have from the principal. So I need to look into this table and bring my repayments. So I will do what? X lookup. Right. What am I looking for? I am looking for these dates now. All these dates. I'm looking for it from where? From my repayment table, from the date column of my repayment table. If you check from this payment to my repayment table, what do you want? I want the amount that was paid. That's all I need. I want to bring the amounts. Then again, XClick was not saying what? Just unlike VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Like if you cannot find it, what should you do? It should return error, which will also affect my template. So in this case, I'm going to say, no, don't return error. Give me what? Return. If not found, just give me 0, just return 0, nothing was paid in that month, and you move on. So when I come here now, look at my repayments. So let me change this to 9 in my account, shift 1. Now I've brought in the repayment into this column. So you can see we made a payment in August. In May, when did anything else? The 3 payments: August, December, and May. Let me see. August, December. Okay, the December here is 2024. This should be, now this should be 2023. But before I change it, let me go and check 2024 December. You can see this is May 2024. If you scroll down, so if you scroll down to this is December 2024. Those are the 3 payments that have been made. Let me zoom out. So look at, these are the 3 payments that have been made so far, right? Now, for whenever a payment is made, it has to go out of this. So I'll come back into the formula for my principal now. So in fact, for this, I will not call this principal. I will call it, okay, this column should call that. I'll change to principal balance because it's the balance that we're looking at. Just say, I'll just come here and say principal, my principal. Let me zoom this up where I can see. Just say my principal minus, okay, this is principal already, right? So principal minus what? Go row by row by row. Go and pick me what? This. Now, this will now change. So it's now going to be what? So we're now going to say, okay, we want, let me cut this out. Say principal minus, what do we have to? Now need to go row by row, right? So now say by row, just like we did earlier on, which is our what? Which is go by months, monthly now. This is your array. Then we say lambda is to say, okay, you know what? We need our row, comma, r, comma, what? Now, what do you want to return now? So in this case now, we are returning what? We are only returning, so here, we want to be summing. So what we want to do here is to say, okay, go into the payments table. All the numbers that you have there, you need to add them together. So long they are not up to the particular date here. For example, now, so we say principal is actually static. We know our principal. So, but the balance, so when it gets here, it should be 120 million minus 10 million. So it should give us the balance. That's what it should replicate until you get to May. This is now be what? 90 million minus 50 minus is not going to be, so 90 to 120 million now minus addition of these 2 columns, these 2 numbers, which is what? 50 plus 10. So 120 minus 60. That would then be what? That would then be what? 60. Then it goes on and on like that. Again, what we are trying to do is now to say the principal value now minus whatever figure we get here on the repayment table. However, there's a challenge that what we have. So you should add all the numbers here. When it gets here, it should be, so here now it's going to be 0. Principal minus 0 is to give you 120 million minus 0. When it gets here, it will be 120 minus this number. Here should be what? This number. So we then say what? Here, we then say you need to sum what? You need to sum if, because we look at it as well and say, you know what? You should not sum it until you get to that particular month. You don't just say add everything together. So come here. Come to the repayment table. Where's my table? Okay. Come and sum this column, whatever I have on this column, right? I need you to sum it together. Using what? Using the dates. However, you only sum it when the date is, so if I do ahead and do this now, it will automatically remove the 60 million from all the 10, 25, 75 million from the 20 million and start giving us only accrued interest on that. But we're saying which is until you get to that month. So we want to use the month as a filter. So here, I'm now going to say, so using the repayment date. So whenever what? The repayment date is less than the month. So we say under the repayment date, I say less than or equal, so put it in a what's it called? In a quotes. Whenever it's less, so I join it to, I say and, right? The what? The month now, which is now row, each row now, just say the row minus 1. Go in there, pick each of the months, right? Sum it. So, but make sure that what the row is -1. Sum each amount until you get to what that particular row -1 means what row 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you're on the first row, just use 0. When you're on the fifth row, use what 4. Check is it the same thing? Then you sum it together. So now close it for sum, right? And I also close it. Oh, sorry, I used sum if yeah. Okay, I should have. Okay, let me just add it to ifs because the argument will not. Okay, let me add it there. Right, close it for. Just close it for lambda function. Okay, then close for the by row, and here we are. Is now going to go in there and say, you know what? From the beginning of this month is what? Is 120 million, 120 million. As at the end of this particular month, our principal is still what? 120 million. But after the month, so when we get to the beginning of September of the next month, that's when what it will start what? Our interest will start calculating. It will reduce it by 10 million. You get now? So as at the end of this particular month now, of August, that's when we paid it. But as at the end of August, our interest is still being calculated by 120 million. But once you get to the next month, it is reduced. You see that? Then you get to May, you see calculated as what? Using 110 million. But the next month now, it reduces by 50 million. It reduces. Right. So this also now affects the accrued interest. It also affects the accrued interest. Let me see. Which is my principal. This is now the principal multiplied by what? The rate and the time. So when you check, yeah, at some point we're now paying 100,000 per month. So you can also add additional logic to this to say, okay, what if because this payment, all these payments were paid at the end of each month. But we can also look at and say, okay, what if a payment is made? We made a repayment within the month. How then do we also factor this in? So these are the different complexity that you can actually have when you are creating when you are automating and you are creating your own template. And once you have a standardized template like this, then consolidation would then be the easiest thing to do, because now this data now is now following our orderly principle. One of the rule in that principle says that what every unique data must have its own column. So all these are unique data. Bank is a unique data. The financial instrument will have its own column. The date, the rate, everything is also following what the principle that guides the data management and reporting. So easily now, instead of you doing this report monthly, going at the end of the month, you doing manual calculation. Okay, this month is how many days? Is 13. You just put 13 and say 13 plus this. Then okay, we made a repayment of 100,000 last month. You remove it from it. Doing the calculation manually is actually going to affect, which stems from where the problem started, which is that what it is taking time for us to churn out reports, because it's time consuming and it's also prone to error. But with what we have done here, to a large extent, we have automated all the process. Any day you make a repayment, just come here and say, okay, we made a repayment on, let me add, okay. Let me just come and say, okay, yes, I've made another repayment, which is what? 31st of January 2025. Right? How much did I pay? Let's say I paid 20 million. At once, it goes in here and I can see that what 20 million has also been removed from this amount. Now my loan has been reduced. So my what? So I can even plan from the beginning of this loan to know, okay, I can structure my loan to make sure that what I make effective use of this of the interest. I pay low on the interest. I structure how I'm going to make my payment, and also toggle with it, play with it around. Okay, what if analysis to say, okay, what if the loan rate is 12%? What will happen? Escape. Right? So it changes everything. Calculation changes. Right? What if it's not starting on this date? I can say, what if it's starting on what? Let's say starting on the 5th of December 2023. Automatically it recalculates itself, and now we no longer have 27 rows. We have what? 21 rows. And we can see that what? Now this is it. This is everything that we have. What do we have? Okay, I can remove all these numbers and it gives me the actual value that we have. And I can, when there is no repayment, you see, the repayment column will be 0 and it will be calculating it based on the principal. And I can even say, okay, what if I didn't pay anything till the end of it? This is my total. And lastly is, okay, these are the monthly accrued interest. What if I want to see what? The cumulation of it monthly to say, okay, let that be the last one, which is cumulation of my interest. So I want to see more year to date or so, right? So this is what I'm paying in December. This is what I'm paying in January individually. But I want to add everything together. So let's say accumulated interest. Let me call it that. To then look at each month and say I want to accumulate these numbers by saying equals to this, right? Then when I come to the next one, I say equals to whatever I have here plus. This is how we do it in Excel. You now be what? You now be scrolling down and so you be double click, right? This is using Excel function, but you can also automate it using an array function. So because the challenge here is if my template change, if the date changes, let me say, okay, it's no longer from December now. Okay, this is also December, but it's in 2020. Yes, look at it. I will now have to again come here and drag down, which defeats the purpose of this. So all I can do is what? All I can do is, let me come here. I will then use an array function that says, okay, equals to, there's a function that's called the scan. The scan function is also an array function, right? So scan function also what? It helps us to get this done easily without having to drag and drag, which is prone to error. We leave the template, it runs on its own. It's asking what should be the initial value. My initial value is 0, right? What's the array? This is the array that I'm looking at. This is the array that I'm looking at. Then I'll use it, lambda function, to say, you know what? Go over this array. Because you're doing row, only row, right? Go over this and what? Help me to add the numbers. What do I need? I need to say what? Okay. Then add row, comma, column. Then I will say, what am I doing here? I'm saying R plus C, right? I'll close the bracket for my lambda, right? Close the bracket for this and hit enter. On its own, it's what? Automatically, it add all the numbers for me. See, in the first month, is this? Second month, 600 plus 700. What's the total? I have what? I have 1.338, 330. I have it there. Then come here and add this one as well. So if any changes in the template, let's say it's now no longer 2023, it's now 2020. On its own too, it grows. Can you see now? It grows up to the last one. So nobody needs to come into this template and either edit, drag down, or whatever. Right? So the interest keeps growing. It keeps growing. So this is how you automate your report using the advanced, the modern Excel function. And this is where we're going to be stopping today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And you can always reach out to us for the training, consulting, and we also have a special package for you, which is the Financial Modeling Academy. Thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in our subsequent webinars, trainings, and also in our academy that's actually going on currently. Thank you, and bye for now.